On a quiet, rainy evening, an officer was patrolling a neighborhood when he noticed a young girl walking alone along the side of the road. She was soaked to the bone, shivering as raindrops poured down around her. Concerned, the officer pulled over and gently approached her, asking if she was okay and if she had lost her way. The girl, around 8 or 9 years old, looked up with tear-stained eyes and quietly said, "Mama doesn't want me anymore." Her voice was filled with sadness, and it was clear she had been walking alone for a while, with no adult in sight. The officer knelt down to her level, trying to comfort her and understand her story. Through her hesitant words, he learned that she had been left alone and felt abandoned, though the details were still unclear. Feeling a surge of compassion, he reassured her that he was there to help and that she wouldn't be alone anymore. He called for assistance and took her to a safe place, where social services could step in to provide the care she needed. In the days that followed, the community rallied around the young girl, and authorities began looking into her situation. Thanks to the officer's kindness and vigilance, she found herself surrounded by people who cared about her well-being. Her heartbreaking story soon brought attention to the importance of watching out for vulnerable children and ensuring they are never left behind. One dark, rainy evening, Officer Daniels was driving his usual patrol route when his headlights caught sight of a young girl walking alone along the side of the road. She was drenched from head to toe, with rain pouring down on her and no coat or umbrella to shield her from the downpour. Alarmed, Officer Daniels pulled over, grabbed his rain jacket, and stepped out into the storm to approach her. As he gently called out to her, the girl stopped and looked up, her eyes wide but weary, a sadness in her gaze that struck him deeply. She couldn't have been more than 9 years old. He knelt down to her level, trying to make her feel safe. "Hey there," he said softly. "Are you okay? Where are you headed?" The little girl hesitated, looking down, rain dripping from her hair. After a moment, she answered in a quiet voice, "Mama doesn't want me anymore." Her words, spoken so matter-of-factly, hit him like a punch to the gut. He had seen a lot in his years on the force, but nothing quite prepared him for the heartbreak he felt hearing those words from such a young child. Trying to keep his own emotions in check, he placed his jacket around her shoulders to help warm her up. "I'm here now," he said reassuringly. "You're safe, and I'm not going anywhere." As they sat together in the patrol car, she shared bits and pieces of her story. Her mother, dealing with difficult personal struggles, had told her to leave during an argument. With nowhere to turn, she had started walking, not knowing where else to go or if anyone would help. Officer Daniels radioed for assistance, reaching out to social services to ensure she would be taken to a safe place. But as they waited, he listened to her, sharing warm words and a gentle presence to remind her she wasn't alone. Later that night, as she was taken into care, Officer Daniels couldn't help but think about the strength it took for her to keep going. It was a night that stayed with him, a reminder of the quiet resilience some children carry and the power of a small act of kindness when someone needs it most. On a dreary, rainy evening, Officer James was driving along his usual route when he noticed something unusual, a young girl walking alone down a deserted street. She was drenched, with no coat or umbrella, her head bowed, her steps slow and uncertain. Concern immediately filled him. He pulled his car to the side, turned on his hazards, and stepped out. As he approached, he could see she was shivering, hugging herself against the cold. She looked up at him with wide, wary eyes. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling down to her level. "Are you okay? What are you doing out here by yourself?" After a moment's hesitation, she answered softly, her voice barely a whisper. "Mama doesn't want me anymore." The words struck him like a blow. He looked at her face, a mixture of sadness and fear etched in her expression. He took a steadying breath, trying to process the situation, and asked her a few gentle questions to understand where she'd come from. Slowly, piece by piece, she revealed her story. Her family had been struggling, she explained, and arguments at home had grown more frequent. Earlier that evening, her mother had told her to leave, saying things that made her feel unwanted. Not knowing where else to go, she had just started walking, not sure what to do or where to turn. Officer James felt a swell of sadness but kept his voice calm and reassuring. He led her to his patrol car, wrapping her in a warm blanket he kept in the back. Sitting beside her, he offered gentle words, telling her she wasn't alone and that she was safe with him. He called in to let his department know about the situation and requested support from social services, determined to ensure she would be cared for. As they waited, he sat with her, listening to her talk about her favorite things, school, and the dreams she held in her young heart. She relaxed a little, comforted by his presence. When help arrived, he stayed by her side, promising her that everything would be okay. For Officer James, this night would stay with him, a reminder of how important compassion can be, especially when it finds someone in their most vulnerable moment. And for the young girl, it was a spark of kindness that showed her she mattered, even when she had felt so alone. On a rainy evening, Officer Harris was driving through a quiet neighborhood when he spotted a young girl walking alone in the downpour. She was small, no older than 8 or 9, her clothes soaked and clinging to her frail frame. The streets were empty, and the rain seemed to be falling harder with each passing minute. Concerned, Officer Harris pulled over, his headlights illuminating the girl as he got out of the car and approached her. "Hey there, are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm and gentle. The girl stopped walking and looked up at him, her eyes wide and filled with uncertainty. She didn't speak at first, just shivered under the cold rain. After a long pause, she finally whispered, "Mama doesn't want me anymore." The officer's heart sank. He could see the hurt in her eyes, the way she clung to her own small body for comfort. Kneeling down, he tried to comfort her, asking her what had happened, where her mother was. She explained that after an argument at home, her mother had told her to leave, and not knowing where else to go, she simply started walking. Officer Harris felt a wave of sadness but quickly put his emotions aside. "You're not alone," he said softly. "I'm going to help you. Let's get you out of the rain." He guided her to the patrol car, offering her a dry jacket from the back seat. As she climbed inside, he made sure she was warm and safe. The officer then called for backup, contacting social services to make sure the girl would get the care and attention she needed. While they waited for help, Officer Harris sat with her, talking to her softly to ease her nerves. He asked her about school, her favorite things, and the dreams she held close. Slowly, she began to relax, her shivers fading as she realized she wasn't alone anymore. When social workers arrived, Officer Harris stayed with the girl, making sure she was in good hands. As they left, he gave her one last reassuring smile, knowing that for this young girl, the rain had ended, and she had found a safe place to go.